These Ipswich Town players are defying the odds.
Welcome back to TWTV for another video verdict as we look back on an Ipswich Town game in the Premier League as we struggle for survival. And I'm joined by Mr. Phil Ham, the man behind TWTD, and we're behind the Sir Alf Ramsey stand to talk about Ipswich Town 1, Spurs 4. I guess, Phil, the narrative before this one was, we'd had a bit of perhaps an uptick in fortunes and form with the Coventry FA Cup win and a really battling performance away at Villa. And we started strongly, but the game kind of got away from us today. Talk us through what you've written up in the match report and give us your overview of the game and how it played out.
Yeah, I think, as you say, we started very strongly. Which Kieran McKenna sort of mentioned at his press conference yesterday that he wanted that sort of strong, fast start because he said Tottenham always trying to aim for that. And actually, we had two very decent chances right within seconds, didn't we, really? And I thought the second one, Liam Delap should have made much more of when he... and you thought, really, actually, at that stage, the sort of battle between him and Archie Gray, the young centre-half, that Delap was, was just having him for breakfast, really. And the pace and strength-wise. And the second time when he sort of went round the outside of him, and I think that was a really good chance, and he sort of stabbed it wide, didn't he? And then he had a header that hit the post, and at that stage you thought, well, Town are doing really well here. This is a good performance, and but I think the opposition I think obviously Axel Tuanzebe being missing was a big loss on the right hand side. Ben Godfrey obviously missed half a season, really, sort of on the sidelines at Atalanta in Italy, and I think he's still to get to the top of his game because he was given a bit of given the run around by Son, who I think two openings on that side, maybe three openings. He had one. There was a bit of a warning before that, wasn't there, when there was a save and a deflected shot. I can't remember which. And but yes, he gets popped by him very easily, slams it across, and Leif Davis has lost Brennan Johnson, hasn't he? And we're quite used to seeing a Johnson celebrating in front of the North Stand when his dad used to do it, and unfortunately it was his son playing for Tottenham today. And the second one again, same players involved, wasn't it? And again, Leif Davis seemed to lose him, lose Johnson, and he put it in. And really, Spurs hadn't had to do a whole lot at that point. I thought we were the better team. Kieran McKenna said at his press conference he thought that we were the better team in the first half. But it's the story of the season, really, in to some extent, that we don't make the most of our opportunities when we're on top in games and we create chances, and at the other end, the opposition are far more clinical and take their chances. And 2-0, the game looked all but over, but this team has the spirit that we've seen over the last couple of years, and Calvin Phillips and Jack Clark carved out the opportunity for Amari Hutchinson to pull one back. And actually, at half time, he went in thinking, "Here we go, we could make a bit of a fist of this in the second half." And actually, there was a spell when Philogin and Hutchinson, in particular, were having a bit of luck down that right hand side. We're getting crosses over, but again, we didn't. You can't really point to too many clear-cut chances in that spell that we created, even though we were on top. And then, of course, they score their third goal with, I think, was first shot of the second half. And then the fourth one, which was, I think we're just pushing on the brake. We've made changes, and there's obviously the incident with Jacob Greaves on halfway where he took a knock to the head, and the referee might have stopped it. But again, I think we
were clutching at straws.
I think you'd be clutching
yeah.
at straws to kind of be. But I mean, at 3-1, I don't think there was much hope of getting back into it, and so another home defeat, 9th home defeat of the season. We needed. It was another game that we looked at because of Tottenham's run, perhaps not recent run, because this is their 3rd win in the Premier League in a row, as being a game which was potentially winnable. But we've come up short. But I think 4-1 flattered Tottenham quite a lot. I think in between the two boxes, there wasn't an awful lot in the game. It was just in the two boxes where it was won and lost. And I think there's been quite a number of matches like that this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe it was the wrong time to play Tottenham. They just started to get a little bit of form back in.
Right.
They've got their excellent goalkeepers returned. They were starting to, get some results, as you said, 3rd win.
Players coming back from injury, and 3rd win, and yes.
And just unpacking, I've just been speaking to a good friend of mine who's a Spurs fan, John, and his view was, they felt really under the cosh for the first 10 minutes. They were really worried, and you picked out a really good point that Archie Gray, John mentioned Archie Gray. It looked like Delap was going to have an absolute field day with him, but Archie Gray, I thought, really grew into the game and actually played well, and Delap seemed to drop away quite a bit. But I think that the two things I want to pick out from what you said there are we're simply not taking the chances. We had actually a lot of shots on target or shots today, but they're not clear cut.
No,
and we didn't really get enough threat on them. And in that opening spell, we had to really get a goal, and I think it would have changed it. Second point to make is maybe that's that harsh first yellow for Axel Tuanzebe that led to the sending off at Villa Park. That's had a huge impact today.
Yeah, it has. I mean, Kieran McKenna mentioned it in his press conference. He said we got a player sent off for 2 bookable offences last week when he'd committed 1 foul.
Yeah.
And that's true. It's
and I think Son has not had the greatest of seasons. Axel had him in his pocket in London when we won away to Spurs. And I think it was unfair a little bit on Godfrey because he was put out on a sort of full right-back mode. And again, Phil, what do you think about the fact that Philogene and Godfrey and the 3 lighter weight players behind Delap? That's going to give us a lot of struggles defensively, isn't it? And it was quite bold to just have a flat, just to have the 4.
It was. Yeah, well, I think this. Yes, I think a lot of us anticipated going in with a similar approach to the game at White Hart Lane when we played Ben Johnson, didn't we, as the sort of wide right player, which kind of it kind of then means when you're under the cosh, it becomes a sort of 5 at the back. But clearly, he wanted, and for the opening period of the game, it worked very well. And if we'd have got a goal in that game, Tottenham would probably, in that period of the game, Tottenham would probably have got quite nervous.
Because when you've had a run of poor form as Tottenham have had, you have a bit of a low, you've got not much resilience. So we could have got into them.
A bit of a soft underbelly.
I think one thing we're getting rained on here, fantastic. So we'll speed up quite nicely.
And we lost the cricket.
I think we've lost the cricket. We've lost 4-1.
And it's raining.
Survival's looking big and it's raining. This is what it's about on the video verdict. But let's move on. I just wanted to talk about a few final things. The Wolfenden disallowed header. The North Stand really went ballistic. Could that have been, that took it to 2-2? Could that have been a moment where could we have come back from that? You know what I mean? If that hadn't been disallowed, what was your thoughts on that?
Perhaps, but I think it was rightly disallowed. When you see the footage, he was well offside. But yeah, I mean, it was probably the only real chance that we created during that spell. I mean, I think that's another thing. We talk about taking chances when we create chances, but in that sort of decent spell in the second half at 2-1 and I can't remember whether it was 2-1 when that went in, wasn't it? That would have made it 2-2. In that period, we had sort of opportunities to create chances, but we didn't really. Do you know what I mean? We were kind of encamped around their area for quite a while, but we didn't have the guile to create the clear-cut chances that they did and other teams have done when in those sorts of circumstances.
And we've talked about the gaps in quality so much this season, haven't we? And I thought I thought Jed Spence was fantastic today for them. And you could just see they did have quality. And again, their ability to take it forward
and places like that.
Son getting back on his game.
I mean, Son was excellent. I mean, he made the most of his the opportunities he was afforded down that flank, didn't he? And Brennan Johnson took his chances in a manner that you probably. Would Town have taken the opportunities in the way that they did? Probably not.
Not at the moment. No. Let's talk about performances. Let's start with Philogene. I thought it was a bit in and out. He had patches at the start that were well, but in J block around me, there was quite a lot of frustration with Philogene in the second half. What do you think of his performance?
Yeah, I think yes, similar. He probably showed more today, I think, than he's perhaps shown in some of his other games for Town. But yeah, again, in spells rather than sort of concerted across a game. You could probably say the same about Delap, who obviously made a terrific start. And I think, but at the same time, did Town find him enough in the positions where he could cause Gray more problems? And I don't perhaps was the case sort of after that early period. I think Davis, wonder whether he was still 100% fit, because I thought he was. He obviously allowed Johnson to get away from him a couple of times.
There wasn't much. He wasn't able to get forward much. Let's talk about our friends over at Blue Monday have reached their 900th episode, which is remarkable. How the heck have they done that? That's a really impressive milestone for them. And they talk about Kelvin effing Phillips to say Calvin effing Phillips. How the hell did we get him to come to Ipswich? But actually today I thought he was brought in. We had a poll on the forum where there's a big consensus that we should bring him over the fit Morsey. I thought he looked good for most of the game, but maybe faded at the end. What's your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think that's been a thing that he has done when he's had good games. Is fade the longer games have gone on. Him and Jens Kajuste. I think they were good in the first half. And Kieran said that he thought they were outstanding in the first half in his press conference. So but both of them obviously then picked up knocks in the second half. But he didn't know how significant they are. Kajuste's ankle, because I think it was a bit of a freak one where someone fell on him.
And he did keep going down, didn't he? Which is always slightly worrying.
Someone fell on him, and he sort of twisted his ankle under him, and then it's a calf problem for Phillips. And so it's a bit of a concern ahead of Wednesday. But you wonder whether Phillips, in that circumstance, I think the fourth goal had just gone in, or maybe the third goal. I can't remember the fourth goal. I think possibly. He sort of sat down and got with an injury at that point. If we'd have been desperately chasing a goal, you wonder whether he'd have been able to carry on in that circumstance. But we'll see how they are on Monday when there's a press conference.
Do you think the subs came on early enough? I thought Hurst and Broadhead looked good when they came on.
Broadhead had an impact, I thought. But he always does. I think people will query why Jack Clark started ahead of Broadhead, and maybe Philogene started ahead of Broadhead as well, because I think he's been worth a start on the performances he's put in. But he did all right. I don't think that the subs overall had a huge impact on the game. Although we had that spell, didn't we, where we were kind of pushing them until they got their third goal. I thought we were looking the most likely, weren't we?
I liked Wolfenden when he came on. He looked quite. Again, the game had got beyond us a little bit. Obviously, came on at half time. Wolfenden to make up for Godfrey, who had a yellow card. That was one of the reasons he came off. But I thought Wolfenden looked good.
Yeah, he did all right.
He purred along, didn't he?
And he might have scored his first Premier League goal. I do feel for him. At that moment, having felt he'd scored a very important first Premier League goal.
He kicked the ball up into the West Stand. He was full of beans. He's one of our own. And what a shame to have that taken off him.
Very frustrating.
So we haven't got 3 keywords on the forum today from Homer. I think probably he's too depressed to put it up today.
He's put it up.
Oh, he has put it up. Unfortunately, I've missed it. But let's talk about a few key threads that have been put on there. One is... think we set up wrong today from SJP. And what do you think? We've talked about it a few times. What's your conclusion on that?
I don't know. I don't know whether the setup is wrong, because the way that the game went, I thought that we did all right, didn't we? In terms of the way that we started and the way that we kind of got ourselves in a position where we could have got ourselves in front. And the defending, and it was kind of individual and individual defending, individual errors that really led to their sort of first 2 goals. So, I'm not so sure that's necessarily the...
I'll challenge that a little bit. I do think it was bold.
It was bold.
Godfrey in that right back position
maybe
with Philogene in front of him. Although Philogene, I thought, did come back and press a little bit, but he got exposed.
I don't know. Yes, I don't know. I mean, the other alternative was to start O'Shea at right back. Well, I suppose the other one is to play Ben Johnson there. I mean, he had... Yeah, I think he was trying to pick like for like as best he could, in as much as Axel would normally play there, and Ben Godfrey's the most like him, and I don't think he wants to take Dara O'Shea out of the middle, if at all possible, which is why he didn't line up as the team ended the second half last week, started the second half last week, and started the second half today.
So from Weird Fishes, we had 3 clear-cut chances in a thread in 10 minutes, and we scored nothing. And Spurs then had 2 breaks, and they scored 2, and it's a point
exactly
we've made.
what
And I think it's the point of the season, isn't it? We've just got to learn that you just got to be clinical. Got to take your moments when you're on top, score some goals, put yourself in a cushion. And last from Suffolk Punch FC, bit of a depressing one, Phil, but maybe we need to talk about it. Did we get relegated today?
Yeah. It's going to be very difficult to come back from here, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think 5 points behind Wolves. I mean, there was a lot of talk about... Kieran kind of mentioned in his press conference that we haven't had a whole lot of good fortune this season, and I think that's fair. I know it's kind of managers can say, "Oh yeah, we've been a bit unlucky," but we haven't. We haven't had a game away at somewhere like Bournemouth where a side struggling towards the bottom aren't expected to win. We haven't had a game against one of those teams where they've ended up down to 10 men after 31 minutes.
Yeah.
And we've instead had situations where we've been reduced to 10 men after 40 minutes for ridiculous decisions like last week. And I think we've been a bit unfortunate.
We've been on the wrong side of certain margins. We've been on the wrong side a bit of luck.
We have.
Let's
in terms of relegation, I think 5 points plus goal difference, which I think is 12, isn't it? It's very significant now. So 6 points effectively behind Wolves with 12 to go. That's a big ask, I think.
Well, let's go into a bit of detail on that, Phil. Let's look at the Survival League. So the scores around us, Leicester, look gone. Very poor atmosphere at the King Power yesterday. Lost 4-0 at home to Brentford. I think it was a bit of a shocking night. Again, the luck not going our way. Bournemouth, red card. Wolves have won 1-0. Everton 2, Man U 2, which... watching Isaacs earlier on, that was a real cracker. And Man U had Everton had a penalty in the last dying minutes that was then chalked off by VAR, which is just
outrageous decision. I watched it, and none of us in the press room could believe that it was overturned.
It was weird. Everyone was saying it was soft in Isaacs, but actually they just looked at the wrong angle on VAR. The pull of the shirt was behind.
He pulled his shirt twice.
And it was the wrong angle. Saints lost 4-0 at home to Brighton. So in a way, the 3 relegated sides, Phil, they are down in those three places.
The 3 promoted sides.
We're the top of the 3 promoted sides. We're in 18th position in the relegation zone. Got 17 points. And the difference now, as you were pointing out, is 5 points, but a really significant goal difference now. And all season, we've only won 3 games.
Only one at home.
8 for 15, and we've had 15 losses. So 3 wins, 8 draws, 15 losses. I do think we're better away at home at the moment, Phil. I think we look a little bit more solid and better ideas. I do feel like we're not seeing... There was one move in the second half today, Phil, when Taylor... I think it was we combined and showed some of the play that we could do, pinging it around, moving it quickly. We're just not seeing enough of that confidence and that build-up play at home.
No, our results at home haven't been good by any stretch of imagination. Although when you look back at it, there's so many games where you think, well, we should have won that. We've been saying that all season. But yes, I think we've left ourselves in a position now where we're kind of needing snookers almost. But earlier in the season, we hadn't won any games. We went to Tottenham and we won, didn't we?
Yeah.
And that was a result that we weren't anticipating. Yeah. So there is no reason to think
and
we might not pick up a similarly.
And we've been doing well on the road
result.
at Coventry and Villa. There's a great atmosphere in the away end. For the
and
town
Manchester
fans.
United were very close to losing to Everton today,
yeah.
and they haven't been great. And if we go ahead early on in that game, you can see the atmosphere turning there. So and
we'll have Tuanzebe back, which will be massive.
Yeah,
so
I think that'll make quite a difference with Tuanzebe on the right, and obviously wanting to impress against his old club.
Absolutely, yeah, indeed. Well, listen, we'll be back for another video verdict from Old Trafford on Wednesday night. Thank you so much for tuning in and spending time with us. And please, as always, like and subscribe. Hello and welcome back to TWTV for another video verdict with me, Jim Cooper, behind Portman Road, the West Stand. And I'm joined by Kallum Brisset, TWTD writer and Suffolk news writer. Welcome, Kallum.
Well, thanks. Yes, thanks for the welcome.
Well, good to be here, and it's a shame Kallum hasn't arrived from the North Stand. We're going to get a view from the North Stand, but you haven't arrived with a smile and a skip in your step, because
No.
it's a disappointing result today. We've lost to Spurs 4-1 in a game where we started Kallum strongly. You know, we carved out chances, we got the crowd going, but then we sort of allowed them into us. We got a lot of difficulties on our right-hand side, and in the end it was quite comfortable for Spurs, and it's really demoralising for Ipswich, as we really are. The fight for survival is looking really challenging. CouldCould you take us through your sort of, how did you feel about the game? What was your overview? Key moments, please.
Yeah, started quite well. You know, a couple of really good opportunities. There was one inside the first sort of 25 seconds or so. There was another one on 2 or 3 minutes, and then another one on 6 minutes, I think. Hit the crossbar or the post for one of those from a set piece. So it could easily have been a goal or two up at that point. And I think we needed it. We came into the game knowing that we needed a fast start, you know, that was going to get the crowd on our side. And I thought the crowd were really good in that stage. And then it was really frustrating how the first goal goes against us not too long after that, which comes from our kind of right-hand side. I think Ben Godfrey hasn't had the best halves, shall we say. Both of the opening 2 goals that came pretty quickly with each other were down that side, sort of cutting it back from Son for Brennan Johnson, and then we get back in the game with Amari's strike. It was another one where we kind of won the ball high up the field. It felt like that happened all game. It felt like Spurs were just gifting us the ball in dangerous positions, but that was the only one that we were able to take. And I think at the end of the day, the best summary that I can give is that it's just about being more clinical in both boxes. I think we had more chances in the game, and probably the bigger chances, but the ones they had, they took, and we didn't take ours. And I think that's where kind of the gap in quality comes in, is just in between the two penalty areas.
That's right, and it was a shame. We did get a headed goal from Wolfenden, from a good cross from Philogene, I believe, which brought it back to 2-2. And you know, that was a moment where the North Stand was lifted. Felt like we might get into the game, and unfortunately it was chalked off for offside.
Yeah, it felt like a big moment, didn't it? Because at that point we were really pushing for an equaliser, and even after that we were pushing right up until it went to 3-1. And then when the goal goes in for 3-1, you then feel like the game is done. But yeah, we were pushing throughout that whole second half at 2-1, and then as I say, it becomes 3, and then it becomes 4, and then the scoreline maybe looks like an unfair reflection on how the game went, but that's what it comes down to, that kind of clinical nature, as I mentioned. And in the end, we got punished, and the scoreline reflects as it does.
Yeah, that's right. Let's talk a little bit about that side. Obviously, we'd lost Axel to a suspension. I think it was an interesting choice to put the 3 lighter weight, shall we say, defenders, attackers behind Delap. And then it meant Godfrey was a bit exposed. Could you take us through the team lineup, and then we'll sort of talk a little bit more about that setup, if that's okay? Yeah,
Godfrey was really exposed. Ended up him coming off at half time as a result of kind of a pretty disastrous half from his point of view.
And probably also he was on a yellow card as well. So
that would have played into the decision as well.
Yeah.
What were the other changes? It was Philogene and Jack Clark were the 2 kind of deployed either side of Hutchinson. Would have liked to have seen Smodics from the start. The fact that we didn't get Smodics on the pitch at all would suggest that he's maybe not fully fit yet, that he didn't even get the chance to come on, which was a shame, because I think he offers something a bit different. Sammy Smodics certainly offers a bit more grit, a bit more of a goal threat himself. You know, in kind of shooting positions, he's one of the attackers you'd fancy to score. But like you say, it ended up being, as we were shifting across to the left, that right-hand side with Godfrey, and he wasn't getting a lot of support from Jayden Philogene, kind of as the winger on that side did look exposed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think, as I said to you, I think it was a bold decision for McKenna, to have the 3 smaller players, as you've said, you know, to have Philogene protecting Godfrey, who's almost sometimes I see as a centre-back rather than a full-blown right-back.
Yeah.
I think if you'd had Axel fit and not suspended, I think Axel maybe could have handled Son. But at times, Godfrey wasn't sure whether to push out to Son or then try and sit back and get taken on. And in the end, it became a real battle for him. And you could see his head. Sorry, there's a dog just going past. You see his head went fairly early, didn't it?
Yeah.
You know, you could see he lost his confidence, and he was getting quite exposed on that side. And it really was a key element to why we lost the game today.
It was. I mean, with the selection, it was an attacking selection in terms of the front four, but I don't think it was the worst decision. I think in terms of how we wanted the game to go, we probably would have wanted quite an open game and end-to-end encounter, which is what Spurs are so known for, being so open. And it's easy to say, but if one of those chances in the first 5 minutes goes in and you get off to the flying start, we could be talking about a different game. The problem is, we've said that kind of thing so much this season, particularly in our home games.
And it does feel like the home form now is very poor.
I mean,
it feels at home.
7 of the last 8, or 6 of the last 7. One of those. I mean,
it feels like
it's not good enough.
We look quite loose, don't we, at home? Yeah. We don't seem to have some of the fight and the drive, and we don't look quite as connected sometimes at home. You know, and that was sort of playing it away. We seem to have a bit more solidity, seem a bit more of a plan, perhaps.
Yeah, possibly. It's different when you're playing at home and when you're playing away, isn't it? You know, at home you want to be a bit more on the front foot, and I think that's what we went for today. But in the end, just the way that the openness of the game led to conceding 2 goals, 2 quite soft goals down the same side in the first half. It was always going to be difficult to get back in the game at that point.
Let's talk about more of the performances of the player. I thought Phillips came in, which we did a poll on the TWTV forum to see whether Phillips should start over Morsey, because obviously Morsey was fit again, and you know, it was 85% were asking for Phillips, and I don't think that was a slight on Morsey. You know, he's a well-loved captain, but you know, I think people are seeing in his recent games away at Villa and obviously Coventry in the FA Cup that he has stepped up and has improved. And I thought he had a good game today, Phillips.
Yeah, I thought individually, there were quite a lot of decent individual performances. It was just the way that the team connected in terms of creating that decisive chance in the final, not even the final third, in the opposition penalty box was obviously so difficult.
And I think Hutchinson had a really good game, one of his best in a while. It was a superb finish for the goal, which was a well-worked move as well, I thought. And I thought Greaves, a couple of wobbles at the start, but he really grew into the game and he was quite strong. But again, he was getting hemmed in with Davis down at that side, wasn't he?
Yeah, and that's the problem when the game is the way it is. The whole back line ends up getting exposed with the way it kind of shifts from left to right, which we saw in the first half with Godfrey that we've touched on, but it was kind of beginning to happen on each side as well towards the closing stage. I mean, the 4th goal came from our left-hand side, didn't it? Spurs' 4th goal. It was just a blistering run from, I think it was Odebear.
I think Philogene, bit of a mixed performance. People around me and Jay Block were a bit concerned that there wasn't enough end product. And of course he was struggling. He's not designed to come back and help Godfrey out or be defensive. But it was a mixed affair from him, I thought. Yeah,
well, he gets spoken about as quite a hard-working defensive character. And I think he showed traits of that.
Yes,
only in the forward positions, in terms of he was getting stuck in to win the ball back high up the pitch, but not getting stuck in doing the running the other way in helping Godfrey or O'Shea in the second half. So
when we came out at the start, our press was working quite well across the 3 behind Delap, and Delap was doing well. Although Delap got a bit stuck into that game where niggly fouls, and he didn't really have his best game, did he today, Delap? Do you think?
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't get as many clear-cut chances as he'd have liked. I think the game plan, not the game plan, but certainly one of the traits that we were trying to do was lump the ball forward and try and get him to hustle with Archie Gray, which I thought was a good strategy.
Yeah.
But the players feeding off of that weren't quite crisp enough to.
Yeah. Their new centre back was doing well today as well, I thought. So that was good. I mean, talking about Spurs quickly, I thought Jed Spence was excellent today.
He was. He's been good for a number of weeks.
Yeah.
They've been talking about him quite a lot recently, and I think he showed that he was decent. Obviously got a goal. It was the deflected one, I think.
Yeah. And obviously Son, who's again had a weaker season, or Spurs fans have been telling me, you know, he did grow into. He had that easy battle against Godfrey, and he grew into the game and set up the first 2 goals, and that's what cut us open, really.
And you see the quality with some of the individuals.
In terms of match stats, possession 41%. Shots 17 for us, which is, you know, improvement. We did have a lot of shots through the game. They just weren't particularly clear-cut chances, because we had 5 on target, but only 1 clear-cut chance, and we had 4 corners. And maybe we rue that Wolfenden offside. Maybe that could have been a turning point in the game. But we certainly are looking a little bit off at home. I think the confidence is going, and I think the atmosphere today, I think it did raise. But
I thought the atmosphere was really good up until kind of it went to 3-1, to be honest. I thought the start of the game with great energy, which I think is what we needed. Went a bit flat when it went 1-0, 2-0, but getting the goal back quite quickly turned the crowd back on our side again.
Yeah.
But by the closing stages, when it goes to 3-1, 4-1.
I mean, it's key to say the players were still clapped off. A lot
Yeah.
of people had left. I mean, that's positive to see. But I think there was a little bit of an air of resignation a bit in the crowd today. You know, it was a game where, you know, maybe we wanted a draw to take into Old Trafford. So let's close out. What's your final thoughts on the game?
Yeah, like I say, it feels like another one of these home games at Portman Road that the performance has been okay. We've just come out on the wrong side of it, and it's just the quality in both boxes. I come back to that. You know, we had, what was it, 5 shots on target or whatever it was. You know, only scoring 1, and then it felt like whenever the opposition do come forward, there's a good chance that it's going to end up in the back of our net.
We came out of the blocks, didn't we? In that early spell, you know, we had really good chances. Delat was through, we had hit the post. I think you've got to come out of that spell with a goal or 2. You know what I mean? And I think that's probably the story of the game.
You've got to score when you're on top, and we haven't done that anywhere near as much as we should have done this season.
So to finish, how do you feel about Old Trafford?
Yeah, well, it's not the daunting task that it once was, is it? It's still going to be a difficult game. We've got to go there with belief that we can get something. Let's not be too down from today. You know, we generally have been, in terms of results-wise, have been better on the road than we have at home. So, you know, when we came up to the Premier League, it was going away to Old Trafford and grounds like that it's all about. So let's just go and enjoy it and see if we can get something.
And certainly today, for periods of the game, it was a good game, wasn't it? It was an exciting game at times. We saw some quality players. But I think, you know, Kallum, we're not showing some of the quality that we have. That interplay, it's not on display. I thought Taylor did a few good things when he came on, but I wouldn't say the quality's quite fair from this moment. Well, that's it for this segment.